Well, welcome to the Chronicles of Corona. We are now in chapter 19. That means indeed we've been visiting with people all around the world in this land of Corona for the past 19 weeks. The Chronicles of Corona were inspired by the Chronicles of Narnia, the idea that we live in a foreign land, in a new land, and that we're all in this together. So checking in with people from different places in this land of Corona. This week, I am very, very pleased to be able to introduce you to Dharma Hoy, a student at the University of Arizona, doubling in physics and statistics and data science. So Dharma, welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So you've thought about your heroic name, and what will that be?
I think I'm gonna go with Tenacious D.
Tenacious D, and how come? What comes with that name?
Well, I'd probably say like during this whole Corona thing, like one of the biggest things for me is just like not giving up. Like even though like all of my classes kind of like suddenly went online, just like still trying to keep your head down and like still like trying to do the best you can.
So you keep on going, even when it feels like things aren't going so well.
Right.
Very tenacious. Well, how are things in your part of the land of Corona?
They're pretty good. I mean, here in Spokane, it's like I'm still allowed to leave and like go out of my house and do some stuff. It's just we have to wear masks. But yeah, I mean, things are pretty well. I mean, finished up school, now on summer break, and then gonna head back in the middle of August.
Oh, in the middle of August. Now, when you head back to school, how has the school made plans about how they're going to accept people back?
Yes. So my school, so like some schools in Washington have already decided to be completely online. But what my school, the messaging has kind of been that they're letting each individual professor kind of decide how they want to run their class. So they've given us sort of like 4 different like classroom types, from completely in person, half online, and then live online, and then sort of like recorded online. So basically the professors get to decide how they want to run their class, and then like if we don't like how they're running their class, we can just switch our class to maybe one that's similar but ran a different way. So like mine right now are pretty much my math classes and my gen eds are online but live online. So like we'll all be on Zoom at the same time. And then a couple of my physics classes are in person or like half in person and half online.
And what about living in the dorm? What are they saying about dorm life? How is that going to go?
So I am living in a dorm, but the type of dorm that I am in is an apartment style dorm. So I do have my own room and bathroom, which allows for a little bit more social distancing, but not all the dorms are like that. They did recently release like new rules about the dorm. So if you're in like a public area in the dorm, you have to be wearing masks, and you're also not allowed to have non-university guests like stay overnight. So that's kind of like a change. So like last year I could say like my mom wanted to come and stay in Arizona. She would have to check in, but like she could sleep like in my dorm room for like 2 or so nights. But now that's not going to be allowed. So it's mostly just like the guest privileges are different.
And what about social life? Part of being on a campus is about becoming yourself and testing your adulthood. How is that going?
Right. So I'm not sure exactly like how a lot of stuff is going to work, but like I'm planning on rushing for a sorority this year. And so they already decided that that's going to be completely online. So in the past, it would be I move in a week early, like before school, and then I like meet all of the houses, do like in-person interviews with people. But now all of that's going to be taking place online, starting basically the first day of school. So not quite sure how that will end up working, especially because like I was kind of depending on being in a sorority being like part of my meal plan. So
No.
instead of like having to pay for like an on-campus meal plan, I'll get like food from the sorority. So we'll see how exactly that ends up.
What does it mean to you to be part of a sorority?
So why I want to go into sorority is because I just really want to find like a group of people that are similar to me, but not necessarily similar like major wise, because like obviously I know a lot of people in like the physics department, but I just want to be able to meet even more people, and I think this is a good way to meet like people from different backgrounds and like different majors than like what I'm in, because my classes do like it pretty quickly narrows down like who's in your classes for like a physics major.
Right, because you're in the same classes with people with the same specialties.
Right. And it's a really big school and there's a ton of great people, and I just want to kind of make the most out of it and try to meet as many people as possible.
Yeah. Now, what about Corona in Arizona has spiked? What are you hearing from the people who are there?
Um well, most of my friends that are there are kind of like isolating themselves. They're not really going out a ton, and if they do, they're trying to wear masks. But I mean, part of like my view on it is like I can't change what the state does. I mean, the state's going to do what the state's going to do. And my school, from I guess my observations, is doing really the best that they can with the situation that they're giving or that they're given. So like my school can't control what the governor does. My school can't control what the mayor does, but all they can control is like how they try to keep their students safe. And all I can do is do my part to keep myself safe. So like obviously I'm going to be wearing masks if I'm in an in-person class. I'll be trying my best to social distance if I'm meeting up with friends, and that's really all we can do. I mean, I can't control that there's a spike in Arizona,
Yeah.
but I still want to get my education.
And being in labs, you'll be able to be in person for your labs?
Yes, so I do have one lab next semester for physics, and so that one so far is going to be in person, which I think will be good because like having my online lab for like the second half of last semester, like although it was like kind of fun to like figure out like what the TAs were doing, it's still not that in-person education that like we're paying for. And especially as an out-of-state student, it's like I'm paying a lot of money to get this education. So like if a lab has the possibility to be in person and it will be safe, then I would like to do that.
And what do you dream of for after you get your bachelor's? Are you going on for a master's? Do you want to go on beyond a master's? What's your hope?
Yeah, so I'm not really sure exactly what I want to do right now. I know I want to work in industry in something that is STEM related. So I could stay one more year at the University of Arizona and get my master's in statistics and data science. So that's what I'm thinking about now, and then kind of seeing what the job market looks like then and what I'm passionate about, and then potentially going to get a PhD or going into like corporate law.
And what about law? What about your activism, your concerns for equity and justice? How is that during a time of COVID?
So I guess for me, in my opinion, the best way to make a difference in the world is find something that you're passionate about and do it to the best of your abilities. So I love math and science, and that's something that I've always liked ever since I was like a little girl in like algebra 1 in middle school. And so for me, it's like, okay, I'm just going to take these classes, do the best that I can, and try to be the best STEM major that I can be, and try to then go and do something in the field that helps people.
Is there any particular project that you're thinking of working on while in school, doing some research, trying to investigate something specific while there as maybe a thesis or a project? Is there something you're looking at particularly now?
So I know like with my data science or my statistics and data science major, like part of that is like communicating data to people. And so I don't have like a specific thing that I want to research, but if I am given the opportunity to research something, I would like it to be in that field, because I know as a STEM person, um, I'm also fairly decent at communicating with others. So I would like to be able to just like communicate my knowledge.
Mm.
And I think even like with this whole COVID thing, it's like a lot of people they don't really seem to be used to interacting with like really left-brained people. Like a lot of the doctors that we see on the news, it's like they kind of struggle to communicate what they know, and the public doesn't necessarily take them seriously. So we need to be able to like have those same left-brained people who are then also able to communicate to the public and get the public to believe them. So that's part of why I like the data science aspect of stuff.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for them how to better communicate to the average person?
I think one of the things that a lot of like scientists don't like to do is scientists don't like to definitively say yes or no. Scientists tend, from what I've seen, like to leave a little bit of wiggle room in case something that they say is ever proven incorrect. So I would say, like, to like obviously don't say anything that's fake, but to the best of your ability, say this is what we know is true right now. It's more of that type of messaging.
And what would you say to the folks who don't get that about science?
Um, like, would you say more of like just trying, it's like,
Like there are so many people who, in our culture today, who want absolute answers, and they don't get it that if science is true to itself, science has to be free to even show itself wrong so it can be right.
yeah, I think that's something that kind of just comes with like taking science classes. Like you kind of just have to get used to that idea of we're always looking for like the truth and the facts. And in order to do that, you have to be okay with the fact that the facts may change when you're given more information. And I think a lot of people don't really like that idea of like changing your mind. And a lot of people aren't really okay with like changing your mind. And so I think that's something that just comes with taking more STEM classes.
Yeah, and growing up, it's an adult thing, isn't it? To be able
Yeah.
to own the truth, even if it means saying, oops, got that part wrong. Now we have new information. Yeah,
Right. And that doesn't necessarily mean you were lying at the time, right? You were making a statement based on what you knew. So you can still be someone who tells the truth, but you can also be someone who says, I've changed my mind now given this new information.
right. Based on the facts and the new information, new responses. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what would you say to other people just starting college this year?
Gosh, when I say, just try your best to find people that you can work with. Because I know as a physics major, it's like one of the only reasons I made it through my intro mechanics class was because I was able to sit down and work with people on the homework. So it's something that you can't really do alone. So I would say don't be afraid to, if like you have a class list of like student emails, to like subtly slide into people's student emails and just like say you find someone on your class list, then like they seem like someone who would be nice. Don't be afraid to email them and reach out and try to like schedule a study session, even if it's over Zoom.
So widening, you very much about widening your community, be it with the sorority or the email list, widen the community with people of like mind.
Right. Yeah, because especially as like a STEM major and as a woman in STEM especially, we really do have to like kind of like find our group of people because that's really important.
And how about that? How many women are in your program?
I don't know the exact numbers, but it is definitely mostly men. And so I'm actually involved in a couple like women in STEM mentorship programs where like I'm with a group of women who are also physics majors, and then we were getting together like every other week just to kind of like talk about our experiences.
And what are those experiences like?
Well, I mean, there are definitely like subtle um hints of like sexism like from the men in our class, like even like I've had people explain stuff to me like sort of in like a softer voice, almost as if they were talking to a child, but like explain it incorrectly. So like I'll be there just like laughing to myself and like nodding my head like uh-huh, yep, like totally. And then like I'm able to share those stories with like the other women in my classes and they're like, oh yeah, that happened to me too. So it's more of like if you're not alone you can laugh about it
Mm.
type of thing.
What is it that you need from the your wider community to, or what is it you would say that the young people in college need from their wider communities to support them in this time?
I think if everyone could just do their part to be safe, right? Like no one has to like lock themselves in their house like 24/7. But if everyone could just like wear masks when going around, that would make the numbers like less, and then it wouldn't be as such of like a big risk to go back to school, right? So just like everyone taking a little bit of like risk reward analysis to their lives and being like, okay, like maybe I'll only go out to eat twice this week instead of every single day this week. And if I do go, I'll wear a mask. So like that type of thing.
So being responsible, taking serious the science that we have right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other last words of advice? Something you want to make sure people know?
I would just say do your best to not let the fear of this like paralyze you. I think like especially as a younger person, it's like we've kind of grown up in a world where there's like a lot of scary things that happen, whether it be like school shootings or global warming. And this is just kind of another thing like on us younger people that's sort of like, okay, well, I could die for this, but just because I could die for this doesn't mean I want to live in fear. So like obviously be careful, but at the same time try to live like your best life.
Do you have a sense for how, maybe it's too early, a sense of how the kids are doing emotionally through this pandemic to keep that tenacious stepping forward and keeping the dream alive even when things seem so difficult? Because as you mentioned, the shootings and the pandemic and the school debt and all these other things that are being put on the young. What's your thoughts?
Well, I know for a lot of people that I interact with, just like being able to physically go back to school is like a big thing, because a lot of people when we moved online weren't really motivated to then like finish their work because like say they're at home in an environment that wasn't very well suited for them to do online classes. So I think that's something that keeps motivated. But I think in general, it's more like that realization that you can't control what happens to you, you can only control how you react to it. And so that's just sort of like, I know for me, it's like, okay, yeah, this sucks, right? Like now, instead of being at school, I have to sit in a room all day, like it in my house at home. And it's like my school year was cut like 4 or so months short. But instead of like instead of like, I guess, wallowing in that suffering, just being like, okay, well, now I have nothing else to do. So now I'm going to study for my finals 2 weeks in advance and study like 5 hours every single day minimum and make the most out of this opportunity that I've been given. So yeah,
What
I would,
about, oh, excuse me.
that's okay. I would just say just doing that kind of helps.
And where do you find fun? How do you make fun when you're all alone?
Well, I like what I'm studying, so I think that's fun. But I know sometimes it's like I play video games like on my computer with my friend. I'm not really good at like playing video games, but like we're able to do that kind of like from a distance,
Yeah.
like play together like on a thing.
Well, I sure do appreciate this time with you, Dharma. And I appreciate your studies and having a powerful woman, a tenacious D out there in the world. Very much appreciate that. So thank you for being chapter 19 in the Chronicles of Corona.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So that was Tenacious D, our chapter 19 in the Chronicles of Corona. All peace and good be with you, no matter where you are in the land of Corona. Bye-bye.